Good day everyone. I'm Lyka C. Carvajal. I'm your teacher Lyka and we will discuss the basic principles and concepts of instructional planning. The lesson 2.2 determine what content should be adapted in view of the objectives. So we have here our learning targets. So at the end of our lesson, we should be able to identify the appropriate content to be used in the classroom that is based on the objectives, assess different types of learning objectives, and exemplify activities based on the learning objectives. So we have here learning objectives, assessment, and instructional activities. Objectives form the foundation for selecting appropriate content, learning activities, and assessment measures. Assessments, learning objectives, and instructional activities strategies need to be closely aligned so that they reinforce in one another. We have here advantages of using learning objectives. First, planning instruction. Second, facilitating evaluation. Third, aiding in communication with others. Fourth, improving instruction. And last, producing new insights. First, let's take a look on the planning instruction. Planning instruction, once you have developed learning objectives for a course, you can more rationally sequence instruction, allot time to topics, assemble materials, prepare outlines and book lists, and etc. Learning objectives can also be used as a guide to teaching, as when you plan different instructional methods for presenting various types of content based on the desired learning outcomes. For example, are small group editing of reports to give students experience in evaluating the content, logic, and correct usage. Next, facilitating evaluation. Learning objectives can facilitate various evaluation activities, evaluating students, evaluating instructions, evaluating the curriculum. They can form the basis for grading or for determining levels of competencies in a mastery learning system. They can also be used to demonstrate effective teaching by matching student learning as measured by exams to desired outcomes. We have also aiding in communication with others. There is a need to communicate learning objectives to others between instructor and student with other instructors. For example, exchanging learning objectives within departments is the most specific way to communicate to one's colleagues what you really cover in your course. Next, we have improving instruction. If you intend to improve instruction in a particular lesson or course, you usually begin with the learning objectives for that lesson or course. And next, producing new insights. Producing new insights is the process of clarifying objectives may produce major changes in those who are engaged in the effort. For example, instructors who spend time developing learning objectives are said to acquire increased understanding about what is feasible goal. When more general goals are explicitly identified, many specific sub-goals emerge. Since it may not be possible to reach all sub-goals, a hierarchy or trade-off system of goals must be produced. So, therefore, these are the advantages of using learning objectives from planning, facilitating, aiding communication, improving instruction, and producing new insights. We have also, we have here the Bloom's revised taxonomy. Bloom's revised taxonomy of the cognitive domain or thinking skills can be helpful in constructing course learning objectives. Bloom's and colleagues found that over 95% of exam questions required students to activate low-level thinking skills such as recall. In addition, research has shown that students remember more content when they have learned a topic through higher thinking skills such as application or evaluation. So, in writing learning objectives using Bloom's revised taxonomy, wherein it is a hierarchy of 6 cognitive skills arranged from less to more complex, from remembering, understanding, applying, to analyzing, evaluating, and creating. So we have here, for example, creating. So we have here, students are able to take various pieces of information and form a whole, creating a pattern where one did not previously exist. Action verbs to help write objectives or exam questions for this domain. Example, combine, compile, compose, construct, create, design, develop, devise, formulate, integrate, modify, organize, plan, propose, rearrange, reorganize, revise, rewrite, tell, and write. So that will be the learning objectives in that will be used, wherein we have here in Bloom's taxonomy the creating. So we have also from that evaluating, analyzing, applying, understanding, and last, we have also remembering. When we say remembering, it recognizes the student's ability to use rote memorization and recall certain facts. Action verbs to help write objectives or exam questions for this domain are cite, define, identify, label, list, match, name, recognize, reproduce, select, and state. We have also the to be able to apply what we have learned in this lesson, we'll have an activity. So we have here what learning objectives emphasize. First, learning objectives emphasize the observed activity. Learning objectives emphasize student activity, and learning objectives emphasize student outcomes. So when we say learning objectives emphasize observed activity, it is the only way you can determine whether or not a student has learned something is to observe some kind of behavior that indicates learning has taken place. This behavior may range from correctly answering multiple choice questions requiring that the students actually demonstrate a skill. So that is learning objectives emphasized by observed activity. We have also learning objectives and the size by student activity. In here, instructors sometimes state objectives in terms of their activities. However, learning objectives focus exclusively on students' behavior, not on the behavior of the instructor. So, when we say student activity, it focuses on the students, not to the behavior of the instructor. And last, learning objectives emphasize student outcomes. Instructors often state objectives in terms of process or procedure, where learning objectives refer to the end results of instruction. A good learning objective states what a student will know or be able to do at the end of the instruction. So, when we say learning objectives emphasize student outcomes, so the the main focus of this is that a good learning objective that the student, what a student will know or be able to do at the end of the instruction. And oh, we will also have a challenge. So, review an activity, choose a topic in your own specialization, then make your own learning objective based on given examples. So, the given examples are here. We have here the type of learning's objective and the appropriate assessment. So, first, we will identify our objective. So, this consists from record, recognize, identify, interpret, exemplify, classify, summarize, infer, compare, explain, and so on. So, as we observe, these are the Bloom's hierarchy taxonomy. And for this, in every learning objectives, there is an appropriate assessment. So, We have here objective test items such as fill in the blank matching, labeling, or multiple choice questions that require students to recall or recognize terms, facts, and concepts. So, in short, when we want to recall, so this will be the appropriate assessments. And also to interpret, exemplify, classify, this will be the sample appropriate assessments such as summarize readings, films, or speeches, compare and contrast, classify or categorize, paraphrase documents or speeches, and find or identify examples. So, and so on. So, in apply, activities such as problem sets, performance labs, prototyping, or simulations that require students to use procedures to solve or complete familiar or unfamiliar tasks. Next, we have also analyze. So, in here, in analyze, we use to discriminate or select relevant or irrelevant forms, determine how elements function together, determine bias, values, or underlying intent or in presented material, and so on. So in evaluate, so we will use the appropriate assessments such as test, monitor, judge, critique readings, performances, or products against established materials or standards. And last, when we use the learning objective in terms of create, generate, plan, produce, design, so the appropriate assessment that we will use is make, build, design, or generate something new. So then you may start our activity. So it is a self-assessment or self-activity in which you will choose a topic in your own specialization, then make your own learning objectives based on the given examples below. So